Good afternoon, everyone. Is this microphone on? All right, I can't hear it from here. I'm going to start off with the caveat that I'm not feeling exactly myself today. And that's because I have a little game changer of my own here. And I'm calling him Little Taco for now. And this is Little Taco's first public speaking event. So I think he's a little excited. He's been kicking me in my lungs quite a lot. So if you notice me panting or leaning on the podium like this, don't worry about it, we'll be fine. So I'm going to speak today about Soil, which is an organization that I co-founded in 2006. And Soil works with something that every living being can relate to. From every single one of you in this room today, to Little Taco in my belly, to my basset hound in Port-au-Prince, who perhaps has the most experience with this, because she does a lot of it. I'm going to talk to you today about poop. And specifically, I'm going to talk to you about the power of poop. Because poop, like all powerful things, can really go either way. It can be incredibly harmful, but it can also be incredibly beneficial. And if it happens to be Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo, it can also be quite comedic. So I'm going to talk to you about something which most of us take for granted, a toilet. And I'm going to talk about how a toilet can actually be a portal to transformative change. And although this talk happens to be about sanitation in Haiti, the patterns and the principles that I discuss can be used to guide and understand transformative change anywhere in the world. This is a talk that's about people and the relationship to the soil that feeds us. It's a talk about human dignity and ecological growth, and it's a talk about the transformative power of nature. In the next 18 minutes, I'm going to take us to Haiti, where we'll witness a cycle of destruction and then pass through the toilet portal and look at one possible way of renewal. So, I myself am an ecologist, but I have great respect for artists in that they're able to evoke emotion in a way that scientists never could. In appreciation of that gift, I'm going to begin and end my talk with contributions from two artists for whom I have the utmost respect. I hope you'll join me in watching this short video by my friend John Booger and his colleagues at Artifact Haiti that will give you a little taste of the richness of this country that we're about to visit together, a country where I've lived and worked for the last decade. So if we could cue up this movie and maybe dim the lights a little if it's easy. Thank you. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a taste for the beauty of Haiti. And now, to begin the story. How did a country, which was once known as the Pearl of the Antilles, for its incredibly fertile soil. Become a country where today 67% of children are malnourished and agricultural production continues to decline. How did the country that once provided 2/3 of Europe's tropical produce become a country that now imports the majority of their food? A country that's now known as one of the most devastated ecosystems in the world. Generally, when you hear explanations of poverty and environmental destruction, they focus on contemporary practices, like chopping down trees to make charcoal. And while these activities, necessitated by poverty, certainly play a role in ongoing environmental destruction, it's really important to take a historical look at environmental degradation so that we don't end up placing the blame solely on those who have inherited a legacy of colonialism and international intervention that goes far beyond their own control. This is a very famous image of the border between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and it's often used to demonstrate just how badly off Haiti is relative to their neighbors to the east. But what you seldom hear about this image is that what you're actually seeing here are the environmental scars of very different post-colonial histories. In 1804, when Haiti won their independence from France, they set an example that intimidated slaveholding nations throughout the global north. And in 1825, with the support of many international allies, France insisted that Haiti pay reparations for their loss of property. And this meant both the land and the former slaves. Threatened with international isolation, Haiti agreed to pay this debt, which amounted to $27.1 billion in today's currency. That debt took over 100 years for Haiti to pay off, and in that time, over 50% of the forests were chopped down, the few public schools that existed were closed, and money that should have gone towards infrastructure development instead went to servicing an international debt. So this is one of the reasons that there's such a stark difference between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. But it's also a powerful example of why it's important to take a socio-historical perspective when looking at environmental destruction. So now that I've set the historical backdrop, I'm going to bring us back to contemporary Haiti, and specifically to the places where the land meets the water. When I first flew into Haiti in 2004, I was immediately struck by this brown lip that runs along Haiti's coastline. And I remember thinking, aha, so that's where Haiti's famous fertile soil is going. It's eroding off the mountaintops and into the ocean. But as I spent more time in Haiti, I came to realize that it's not only soil that's turning the water brown, it's also human wastes which are making their way into Haiti's waterways. Today in Haiti, only 25% of the population have access to a toilet, meaning that people are forced to go to the bathroom outside, or in urban areas to go in a plastic bag, which often gets disposed of in a canal or an empty lot. Even in places where there are toilets, they're often poorly designed or poorly placed. And although they provide a private place to go to the bathroom, there's still a tremendous risk of water contamination. Like this latrine, which you can almost make out up here, which is situated just above a river, where people are getting their bathing and drinking water. This photo is from a very nice rural hospital in Haiti with very nice flush toilets. And when I visited, I said, so, where is the water from these toilets going? And they took me out back and they showed me this pit. And you can see that it's really quite deep. So during the rainy season, when the water table rises, all of that poop is just mixing with the groundwater and contaminating nearby wells. Ironically, as Haiti's farmlands continue to lose soil fertility, pathogens and nutrients from untreated human waste contaminate water supplies, leading to the degradation of aquatic ecosystems and waterborne disease, which is currently the leading cause of death in children under 5. And even as we speak, Haiti continues to battle the largest cholera epidemic in recent history, with over 1/6 of the population sickened to date. So the question for Haiti, and really for the world, is how do we get all of these nutrients that are running off into the water, out of the water, and back onto farmland? How do we take a tremendous environmental and public health problem and turn it into an integrated solution where we can safely reuse the nutrients to build soil fertility and provide badly needed nutrition? Is there a way to turn this problem into a solution, to transform a waste into a valuable resource, and to turn poop into fertile soil? Our organization has been working for the past 8 years together with local communities to explore ecological sanitation, which is a process by which the food we eat comes full circle and is actually transformed into the food we eat. This process passes through 3 phases, which really encompass all of the core values of soil: dignity, transformation, and growth. The first phase is about the basic human rights of access to food and dignified sanitation, where it goes in the mouth on one end and down through the toilet on the other. It's then transformed through the natural process of decomposition, and the fertile soil that results is used to grow more food, which goes back into the mouth, and the cycle begins again. So this is the point where the story sort of turns around, and it's the light through the hole in the toilet, if you will. And the type of toilet that soil uses, this is a little strange looking, but we use a toilet that separates the urine from the poop. But actually, there's all kinds of cool toilet designs out there that allow you to capture and reuse nutrients. And at Soil, we're really passionate about the process, but we're relatively agnostic about the technology, as long as it's something that's chosen by the people who will be using it. And the way this fancy toilet works is that instead of flushing away the poop with fresh water, we use some sort of dry carbon material to cover it up. And this makes it so it doesn't smell and doesn't have flies. And it also provides food for the microbes that will ultimately transform the poop. At Soil, we focused on 3 different types of toilets. We have permanent public installations, emergency toilets, and private household toilets. The poop from these toilets falls into either drums or 5-gallon buckets, depending if it's public or private, and then is collected and taken to a compost site by the Soil poopmobile. When the poopmobile gets to the compost site, we unload the buckets and dump them into bins and mix them with extra carbon material. And then what happens inside the bins is that these naturally occurring soil microbes suddenly find themselves in an ideal environment. They've got tons of tasty nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium that's coming from the poop. They've got all this great carbon that's coming from the cover material. And like many living things, when they find themselves in this idyllic paradise, they become rather amorous. And they actually start to reproduce like crazy. And that's when the environment inside the bin really changes. And if you can imagine with me, if we have between 300 and 400 people in this room right now, imagine if there was a sudden exponential increase, and suddenly there were 7,000 people packed into this room. You can imagine it would get pretty hot pretty quick. And that's exactly what's happening inside these compost bins. As you get this increased microbial activity, the bins heat up. And as they get hotter and hotter, all of those pathogens that make people sick, they can't tolerate that heat and they begin to die off. At Soil, we really carefully monitor our composts to make sure that we're achieving high enough temperatures according to the World Health Organization, so that all of the pathogens in human poop are killed off. The WHO guidelines say that to safely treat human waste, you need to attain a temperature of 122 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 1 week. And our compost piles get really hot. I mean, this is burn your hand hot, definitely. And so they stay that hot generally for a period of several months, which allows us to know that we've safely treated the waste. The composting process takes about 6 months, and during that time, we turn the piles frequently to make sure that we have even cooking of all of those pathogens. Then we sieve the compost, and we send it off to the soil lab where we do some final testing just to ensure it's safe before we bag it up and sell it under the brand name Compost Lakai, which sounds very cool in Creole, but doesn't actually sound as cool when you translate it to English. So in English, this would kind of mean homemade compost, which really not that cool, but you're gonna have to trust me that this is a very hip name in Haiti. So at this point, the nutrients from the human waste, they move into the last phase of the EcoSan cycle, which is growth. And our compost has been used in urban gardens, in tree planting campaigns with school children, in nurseries, and most of all to produce delicious food, much of which is purchased and consumed by our own team of employees who are really our most enthusiastic nutrient recyclers. So some of you might be thinking, well, you know, this is a lovely story. But what would happen to this story if the amazing soil team wasn't there to drive the poopmobile or to buy the watermelons? How would this process continue without the risk of relying entirely on donor funding? And this is an important question, and it's really at the heart of the work that Soil is doing right now. One of the benefits of ecological sanitation is that it shifts the approach to sanitation from a primarily destructive one, where it's limited to the killing of pathogens, to a productive goal, where human wastes are transformed from a dangerous pollutant into a valuable resource. And this resource creation means that there's the possibility to create livelihoods at every step of this EcoSan cycle. So this has caused us to shift our own approach as well, from a traditional aid approach of donor-funded public and emergency toilets to a social entrepreneurship approach where people rent a household toilet and pay a moderate monthly fee, which covers the construction, maintenance, and collection of the waste. And then additional revenue is generated through compost and agricultural sales, which help to offset the costs of waste treatment. Our role at Soil is really to identify livelihood opportunities throughout this cycle, thoroughly research them, and then work together with local entrepreneurs so that they can begin to take over parts of this cycle. And although we're a nonprofit, we firmly believe that the key to sustainability is social business development, and that the path to scale is through replication by the private sector. So I say all this not to say that no one should ever donate to Soil again, because we certainly do need donations, but just to say that we're working towards a Haiti where one day our work will no longer be necessary. And even as we work to get ourselves out of a job, one thing that the Soil team never takes for granted is the love and respect that we have for one another. I'm so honored to work with a team of 75 colleagues, and it's their courage and compassion that have brought this idea to life. I'd like to close with a poem by Dennis Brutus, who was a visionary activist and poet, and also a founding member of the Soil Advisory Board. Dennis's lifetime struggle for justice informed Soil's core philosophy, and I often turn to him for inspiration. I'm going to close with a poem called Love the Struggle. And although this was written in 1978 for South Africa, it could just as easily have been written for Haiti in 2014. This is a land so vibrant and alive that laughter will come bursting through, as imperious as the sun, and the spirit will survive, resilient as the soil. Thank you all so much.